The first thing the woman did after her rebirth was to find her husband and reveal the once unspeakable little secrets between them.
你最喜欢我在上面。你最喜欢乐透是001宝，你还记得我是怎么怀孕的吗？就是因为当时你换了个牌子，然后凑后，我们就有了小李呀。
Upon hearing this, the man was utterly shocked, his eyes nearly popping out of his head. The butler, thinking she was some lunatic, asked if they should call the police. But only the man knew that every word this madwoman spoke was true. He hurriedly tried to get her to shut up. However, the woman blurted out another big secret.
你还记得你第一次怎么样都进不去，然后你找。
At this point, he still thought the woman had had plastic surgery to look like his late wife, deliberately approaching him. He even assumed that those intimate secrets between him and his wife had been intentionally revealed to her by his own mother. Little did he know that this woman was really his wife who had been dead for years. It turned out that 13 years ago, the woman had just dropped their 2 children off at kindergarten when she was hit and killed by a woman who had a crush on her husband, who stepped hard on the gas pedal. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself in a mysterious space. There, she saw a distant future. Her husband, overcome with longing for her, eventually committed suicide while clutching her portrait. Their son, with no one to discipline him when he grew up, ended up in prison. Their daughter, being too love-struck, married the wrong person and was eventually killed. Seeing this, the woman broke down in tears instantly. She never thought that her beloved family would end up in such a tragic state after her death. She rushed forward excitedly, wanting to tear up the images to change the outcome. But the next second, she suddenly appeared in her home 13 years later, just happening to land on top of her husband, knocking him to the ground. When she saw her husband alive in front of her, the woman was overjoyed. But when the man came to his senses, he pushed her away forcefully. He knew his wife had been dead for 13 years and could never reappear. At this moment, he only thought the woman had deliberately had plastic surgery to look like his late wife to approach him. So the man immediately told the butler to kick her out. It was only then that the woman realized she had been reborn 13 years later. She rushed to her husband and explained that she had been reborn. But after a brief moment of distraction, the man grabbed her face and pushed her aside again. Having no other way, the woman told him all about the future she had seen. But the man not only didn't believe her, but also accused her of cursing their children and insisted on driving her out. Seeing this, the woman had to hurry to prove herself again.
我可以证明，我们俩在一起是我追的你。表白的时候我借酒壮胆，结果吐了你一身。领证那天你说这是你人生当中最幸福的一天。
你敢调查我？周叔，带他出去，别让他踏进来一步。
In this way, the woman was forcibly thrown out of the house. But thinking about the tragic fates of her husband, daughter, and son, she couldn't do nothing. So she made up her mind to prove her identity and change the future. Early the next morning, the woman came to the door and revealed all the little secrets between her and her husband.
你给我闭嘴！
哦，我想起来了，你还记得你第一次怎么样都进不去，然后你找。
我说闭嘴！
At this time, the man still thought that all these secrets had been told to her by his mother, and even mistakenly thought that the woman was someone his mother had specially arranged for him to meet. So he immediately opened the door and told her to shut up.
老太太不是告诉过你吗？今天晚上7点，市中心的法式餐厅，有什么事去那儿说。
Before the confused woman could speak, the man slammed the door shut. Although she didn't know what her husband meant, she still went to the restaurant as agreed and ordered her husband's favorite dishes. However, when the man arrived, he still thought she had ulterior motives and directly threw a bank card at her, telling her to disappear forever. Seeing that her husband was as stubborn as a mule and wouldn't listen to anything, the woman had to pull out a strand of her hair and told him to do a DNA test. But the man still didn't believe her and turned around to leave. However, as soon as he walked out the door, he ran into the person his mother had arranged for him to meet. It was then that he suddenly realized that the woman might really be his wife. But when he went back to the restaurant to look for her, she was already gone. On the other side, the woman, holding the bank card her husband had left, was going to find a place to rest. But just then, she saw several gangsters bullying a passerby. Just as they were about to attack, the woman rushed forward in a flash and stood in front of the passerby. Little did she know that the person she was saving was her own son.
我已经报警了，警察马上就到。
他说他报警了，你他妈报哪个门子警？
我劝你们赶紧走，要不然打架斗殴被抓进去可是要坐牢的。
你。 土长子，你给我等着！这！你是大姐？你有病吧？你多管什么闲事儿？我一个人能打仨，你知道吗？哦，
回来！我没有报警，我骗你们的！不是打他，确实欠揍！快回来！